Right now, somewhere out there, someone is turning on a faucet without thinking twice. Clear water pours out instantly. No effort, no uncertainty, no question of where it came from or whether it's safe. And that's exactly the problem. Not because clean water is bad, but because your brain never gets credit for it. You didn't find the water. You didn't earn it. You didn't solve anything. It just happened to you. And your nervous system knows the difference. Long before pipes, before filters, before plastic bottles lined up neatly in stores, water was not a guarantee. Water was a question, a problem that had to be read, interpreted, and answered correctly. Find water and you live. Choose wrong and you don't. And even though you live in a modern world now, your brain is still wired for that older one. You might not consciously feel it, but deep down, uncertainty around resources creates tension. Your body evolved in environments where dehydration wasn't an inconvenience, it was a threat. And the ability to locate clean drinking water wasn't just a skill, it was intelligence. This is why learning how to find clean water in the wild isn't about survival fantasies or emergency scenarios. It's about restoring a kind of trust between your mind and the environment, a trust modern life quietly removes. Let's talk about thirst for a second. Thirst isn't just a dry mouth. It's a full body signal. Your energy drops. Your thinking slows. Anxiety creeps in. Your brain starts prioritizing short-term relief over long-term thinking. This isn't weakness. It's biology. When you don't know where your next source of water is coming from, your nervous system stays slightly activated, always scanning, always alert. Modern life hides that process so well that we forget how deeply regulating it is to solve the problem ourselves. In the wild, finding water is not about panic. It's about observation. And this is where most people get it wrong. They imagine desperation, running around, searching randomly. But that's not how humans survived for thousands of years. We survived by reading patterns, by understanding landscapes, by letting the environment speak before we acted. Water leaves clues. And once you learn to see them, you can't unsee them. Let's start with movement. Water moves downhill. Always. That means valleys, dips, and converging lines in the landscape are your first signals. Dry ground doesn't mean no water. It often means water has simply gone lower. Pay attention to where the land naturally funnels. Now look at plants. Certain plants don't just like water. They require it. Lush green growth in an otherwise dry area is not aesthetic coincidence. It's information. Reeds, tall grasses, mosses, and dense vegetation often indicate moisture below the surface. Your ancestors learned this not from books, but from repetition, from noticing which places stayed alive during droughts. Your brain still recognizes that logic instantly once you slow down enough to see it. Then there's animal behavior. Animals don't waste energy. If you see tracks converging, trails leading downhill, or birds flying low and consistently toward the same area, they're not sightseeing. They're following water, especially at dawn and dusk. In the wild, animals are your unpaid guides. Now here's the part modern life doesn't prepare you for. Not all water that looks clean is safe, and not all safe water looks clean. This is where intuition meets knowledge. Flowing water is generally safer than stagnant water, but speed matters. Slow-moving streams can collect contaminants. Clear water can still carry bacteria. Muddy water can sometimes be purified by simple settling and filtration methods using only natural materials. This isn't about paranoia. It's about respect. When you rely on nature directly, you learn to engage with it carefully, thoughtfully, with humility. And that changes something in your brain, because you're no longer consuming resources blindly. You're participating in the process. That participation creates something psychologists call perceived control, the belief that your actions meaningfully influence outcomes. This belief is one of the strongest predictors of reduced anxiety and increased resilience. In modern life, perceived control is rare. Systems are too big, too abstract, too far removed from cause and effect. But in the wild, you read the land. You choose a direction. You find water. You drink. Immediate feedback. Your nervous system relaxes not because life is easy, but because life makes sense again. And here's something important. Finding water teaches patience. You don't rush. You observe. You wait. You adjust. Your attention narrows, not in a stress way, but in a focused one. Your thoughts quiet down because they finally have something real to work on. This is why people often report feeling calmer, clearer, even emotionally lighter after time in nature. It's not magic. It's alignment. Your brain doing what it evolved to do. And when you finally kneel down, scoop water, feel the temperature against your skin, and drink, there's a subtle shift, not relief, competence. You didn't rely on a system. You didn't outsource safety. You didn't distract yourself from discomfort. You solved the problem. That matters more than you realize. Because modern stress isn't just about workload or speed. It's about feeling disconnected from outcomes, from not knowing whether your effort actually does anything tangible. Finding water rewires that. It reminds your brain effort leads somewhere real. And once that reminder is in place, it carries over into confidence, into patience, into how you handle uncertainty back in the modern world. This is why primitive skills aren't hobbies. They're anchors. They don't pull you backward. They stabilize you. You don't need to live in the wild. You don't need to reject modern tools. But knowing that you could find water, that you understand the language of the land, does something profound. It quiets the background noise. Because when your brain knows you're capable at the most basic level, everything else feels less threatening. So learning how to find clean drinking water in the wild without tools isn't about preparing for the end of the world. It's about reminding yourself that you're not as dependent as you've been led to believe, that your senses still work, that your instincts are still there, that nature is not chaos. It's information. And once you start seeing that, you don't just find water, you find calm, you find trust, you find your footing again. And in a world that constantly asks you to consume, scroll, and outsource every need, that kind of knowledge is powerful.